Hi, my name is Laura Shumway, and I am a member of the STORET team. Today we will be going over how you, tribe in Region 6, will submit your tribal data toxics data to WQX. There are a few prerequisites that we've assumed prior to this webinar. First is we do assume that you have a user ID and organization ID with WQX Web. If you don't already, pause this recording, go email the STORET help desk at storet@epa.gov and request a user ID. In addition, check to see if you have an existing org ID for your organization. If not, request that they create one. Also, we are assuming that you are at least familiar with how to load monitoring locations and projects into WQX. We have additional videos for those on epa.gov/STORET on how to load projects and monitoring locations into WQX. For this project, we have created a custom, Rob Cook and I, have created a custom template to make it easier for you to load this data into WQX Web. Here's the template. You can open it. It's called Region 6 Final Toxics Template. I already have it loaded here on my screen. I'm going to exit out. And this is what it looks like. It looks a lot like the physical chemical template that you've seen prior to now. You can see that it's got the projects, the monitoring locations, and the results. The results look quite a bit different in that we've reduced the number of columns vastly. We now only have columns A through K. Previously, I believe it went through A through T, I believe. So we've reduced the amount of work. If you also go into this folder structure, you'll see an example file of data. This data file, I already have it open. This data file is something that you get from your lab. So you should be familiar with this already. We've created this template to make it easy to use with this kind of data format that you get from the EPA Toxics Lab. So let's get started. In the first column, we are looking for monitoring location ID. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the monitoring location ID from this data file, right-click, copy, go to the final toxics template, and in monitoring location ID, I'm going to right-click, paste. So here's a list of locations. Now we need to go get the activity start date and start time. So if I go back to the example file, you can see that the start date and start time are in the same column. That's an issue for WQX, so what we need to do is we need to look at the function bar, the formula bar above, and from behind the 6 of 2016 to the front of 6, standing for June, we're going to select that date. I'm going to right-click copy, and I'm going to go back to the toxics template, and in the activity start date, I'm going to right-click paste. So we have the date here. Word to the wise, do not just grab the corner of this date. If you do, it will give you the sequential date from that, but that's not correct. So what we want to do, I'm going to undo. What we want to do is we need to hit copy, and then select all the columns we want to fill in with the date, and hit paste. Now, we want to go back into the toxics example file and look for the time. So from behind the M to the front of the 9, I'm going to right-click, copy. I'm going to go back to the final toxics template. I'm going to right-click, paste. And then I'm going to copy that cell again, copy, paste. So we have the date, the ID, start date, and start time. So now we're looking for the characteristic name, the result value, and the result unit. Luckily, in the example file, those three things are next to each other. So we have, let me scroll back. So we have the characteristic, we have the result, and we have the unit. So what I can do is I can literally just copy all of these underneath the titles, right-click, copy, go back to my toxics template, and right here under characteristic name, I can right-click, paste. So we have all that information that quickly. result measure qualifier is a qualifier the lab will put on the data if for some reason the value should be qualified. And what that means is, for example, if you see an R on your value, that means it's rejected by the lab. So that value is probably not that good. So if you see that in your PDF that you get back from your lab, put that on this file because it's very important for a data user. Result value type. So there's another file in this folder that you received. It is called the Region 6 Toxics Methods. I have already opened that file here, but in this file, it has a list of the characteristics that you have. It has the units associated with those characteristics, the value type, analytical method ID, the method name, and the method context. What we're looking for in this portion of it is this result value type. So what we know that for alkalinity, conductivity, hardness, pH, ammonia, and chlorine, that the result value type is actual. So that means there were no calculations done to derive that value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in to the template, and for those information, pardon me, I'm going to go back to the Toxics template. For those values, they're right here, alkalinity through total chlorine, those values are actual. I can use the drop down to select that. I can also drag it now because I'm not using a number. Now I'm going to go back to the Toxics methods and look at the other ones. So as you can see, some of these values are calculated. So the tailed critical H and tailed critical W, those are calculated values where the dissolved oxygen is actual. So if we go back to the Toxics template, we can say tailed critical H is calculated, as well as tailed critical W, calculated. But dissolved oxygen, actual. Let's go look at mortality, rank sum, and temperature. So in the methods, you can see mortality, rank sum, temperature. Same pattern, calculated, calculated, actual. So we can go back to the template and say calculated, calculated, actual. And then we have the t-stat, which is the last in the series of those data sets. So we go back to the method, and t-stat is calculated. And as you can see, these results are duplicated again. So what we can do is we can go copy that set of value types and hit paste. So now we have those filled. So now we need to look at the, we need to go to method name result comment. We can find that in the example file too. What I'd like you to do is take this analysis information. I want you to copy it, all of it, right click, copy, go into the Toxics final template, and then right click, paste. So the Pimaphallus is the fathead minnow that was used to analyze the data. So it is important to know that information before we copy over the result analytical method ID. So let's look at that. Let's go into the Pimaphallus, let's go to the methods. And the Pimaphallus uses the method 2000.0. So what we do in the Toxics template is we say 2000.0. And because it's a number, I'm going to right click, copy, and all of the Pimaphallus, I'm going to right click, paste. If we also look at the next one, you can see that all of those have the same analytical method ID. So that one is the 2002.0 for all of those. Can you see that here? So I'm going to go back to the template and then say 2002.0. Right click, copy, and for all of those, I'm going to hit paste. And now we can see that we have alkalinity, conductivity, hardness, pH, salinity, ammonia, and chlorine. So Rob and I ran into an issue that the salinity data we do not have a method for. Because we do not have a method for salinity, we cannot submit it to WQX. It is imperative that we have all the necessary metadata with each of our results, and without that metadata, we should not be submitting it to WQX. So what I'm going to do with line 20 is I'm going to select the row, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to hit delete. Because we cannot submit that salinity data. What we still need is we need the analytical method for alkalinity, conductivity, hardness, pH, ammonia, and chlorine. If we go back to the Toxics methods, those exist in this table in that exact same order. So what I can do is it's alkalinity, conductivity, hardness, pH, ammonia, chlorine. I can copy these, right click, copy, and I can put them into the spreadsheet. So now we have all the methods for each of the data. The last thing we need to do is insert the dilution factor. So we go to the methods, we need to go to the example file and go to the dilution. All of them have a 1. So this wasn't diluted, but we do need to make sure to capture that information. So I am going to go back to the Toxics template and put a number 1, and then right click, copy, and paste. So this file is now complete. We've completely filled out this file. Yay. So now we're going to hit File, Save As, Region 6 Toxics. That's my folder I want to work from. And I'm going to save over this final data because I have created this before. So I'm going to say Save. Yes, that's fine. And I have saved this file. Now I can exit out. The next thing you need to do is open your browser and go to cdx.epa.gov. You should see the login to CDX information, and to log in, you put in your user ID and your password and you hit login. Here on the roles, you should have the WQX web role. Select that. Now, the first thing you need to do is you need to import your import configurations, because we've created import configurations that perfectly match your data set. And to do that, you go to Setup, and you select Import Configurations. At the top of the screen, once it loaded, you should see the Add New button. Select it. There are 3 options that say From Scratch, from an existing configuration or template, or from an configuration file. We have a configuration file, so select that radio button. Now we can go browse to where that file exists. So it took me directly to my Toxics template folder. If you do not, you might need to navigate to this folder if you haven't been there already. So there are 3 import configuration files. This one, this Region 6 Toxics import configuration, is your results file. This is the monitoring locations that match the template that we're working from, and this is the projects. We will not be using those, but you do have access to them in this folder. So I'm going to select the Region 6 Toxics import configuration and select Open, and I'm going to hit Continue. This import configuration generates under your name, and you can see that it's got a lot of generated values, not in your import file. So as you know, there's not sample routine or water or the start time zone in your file. We didn't copy that over, but we are putting that directly in this import configuration. You can see further down what an import configuration really is it just says in column A, we're expecting monitoring location ID, which it is. Same thing, column B, activity start time, column C, activity B is the date, and column C is the time. And that's really what an import configuration does. It just tells the system what's in each column. It needs to tell the system what's in each column because it needs to be able to check the rules for those data sets. So like I said before, you need to separate the date and time because WQX wants it that way. So if they weren't separated, it would fail because it's checking these columns for that rule. The next thing you need to do is edit your import configuration. The first thing you need to edit is your organization ID. The default organization ID on this import configuration is WQX test. You will select this value and select your drop-down organization from the file. You will see only a couple here in the list, so it'll be easy for you to select it. So you can select your organization ID. I'm going to use Cherokee as an example, so you could select Cherokee. I won't actually selected it, and you would select it, and it would close and generate here. So it would see Cherokee here. The next thing you need to edit is the project ID. So project ID is that data set in the file, well, it was in our template, that was the overarching reason why you can why you're sampling. You can use an existing project ID that you've used for your other data sets to submit to WQX, or you can create a new one, such as toxics data. And you would, once again, do the same selection. You would use the context as your organization. So let's say I am Cherokee. Once again, you wouldn't see all of these, and you would hit search, and you would see all the project IDs that you've loaded in the system, and then you can select one. And once you select it, it'll close this box. I'm not going to change the existing one on this file. There are two other things you need to edit, and these are actual edits within the system. So you need to create a sample collection method ID and a lab sample preparation ID. So the sample collection method ID can be created right here in the system. So under domain values on the top, if you select it and you see edit sample collection methods, I'm going to right click and open in a new tab so I don't close this file. And you can see that there's the organization. So you would select your organization. I'm going to use Cherokee as my example again. And it'll give you back the project or the sample collection method IDs registered. If you do not already have a sample collection method ID, you can simply say add new, and you can create your own ID for this. If you sampled the data the way you sampled before, you should probably use a collection method ID. Otherwise, you can say Cherokee QAP. You can reference your QAP. The context is your organization ID. So the Cherokee underscore WQX. For your case, it would be a different organization ID because you belong to a different tribe, but use the ID that you see in this dropdown. The name, you can just type it out, Cherokee QAP method. And you can be as descriptive or non-descriptive as you want in this lesson. And then you would hit save. I'm not going to save it. I'll hit save. That's fine. But I'm going to delete it. Context is required because it wants my org ID. But I'm going to hit exit, and I'm going to actually delete that because I don't want to save that. Okay, so once you've created that, we also need to create a lab sample preparation method. So once again, under domain values, you'll see lab sample preparation method. If you right-click, open in a new tab, same concept as the sample collection method, drop down, use your organization ID, and select add new. The ID is supposed to be EPA R6 lab. The context is once again the organization that you are working under. So if it was Cherokee underscore WQX, it would be the context. The name is going to be EPA Regional Lab. And then you would hit save. I will not hit save for this purpose, but then you'll have that loaded. I'm going to hit exit. So now, once I've created those, I can go back to my import configuration and I can edit those allowable values because they now exist. So I can select method A and change it. So I need to go into the organization, select my correct organization. Let's say Cherokee, once again as an example, hit search, and I can select the sample collection methods that exist for my tribe. And I would hit select, and it would change it in the generated value. The same concept exists with your lab preparation method. You'll hit the value here in the blue underline. You'll use the context, so Cherokee as my example. Hit search, and select the preparation method that you've created. You should have one here. It says none because we didn't add it, but you should have one added. You'll hit select, and then you're complete. You have completely edited your file. And then you hit save. Now we are ready to load the data. So you can hit, as long as your monitoring locations and projects exist before you are loading this data, you can go to import and submit, results and activities, and the import configuration. In the dropdown, select the import configuration labeled Region 6 Tribe Toxics. You'll see that you have all these generated values. Please leave them alone because you've already corrected them in the import configuration and they're good to go. For your case, you're going to say this file contains new data only. But for my case, I am going to select data contains existing data because I am resubmitting the file as this test file. Now you go to import file and say choose file. So we want to choose the file that we created. So we saved our file as toxics final data. I'm going to select that and hit open. And now everything looks right. I'm going to say import data. There are existing data sets in the staging area with the name as this file name. Would you like to delete them before inputting the new one? Sometimes you will get this error if you have already tested this file before. As long as the file previously wasn't what you wanted to submit, go ahead and hit yes. If it's not, you can go back and submit that file. So I'm going to say yes because I want to delete it. I want to try again. So what's happening right now is WQX is checking your file for rules. It's saying, oh, like I said before, is the date only contain the date or does it say time? You'll see that down here in the import event, you will see a message. If it was successful, you'll see message total 7 event log resolution. You shouldn't see another error type. In this situation, you are seeing the other error because I am resubmitting the data. So what the system is telling me is that there is a risk of duplicating the data, which is a good thing that it tells me that so I don't delete the data that exists in the system. However, I'm actually going to continue because I know the data exists and that's for this test. So what we've done here is we've only tested the rules. We haven't submitted it. We haven't fulfilled our submission to WQX. So what we need to do is we need to select export and submit to CDX. This data set has one or more invalid records which will not be included in your submission file. That's because there's an error. If you try to submit data with an error, it will only submit the data without error. So make sure if you're going this far that there are no errors on the data. However, I know that I am duplicating data, so I'm going to hit OK. This next piece says who is submitting the information. So this is the information we have on file in WQX for your user ID. So you can see this is my information here, and I have the radio button selected, submit data to EPA and make it available to the public. That's what we want to do. That's how we fulfill the submission. So we say continue, and now the file is using CDX, the Central Data Exchange, to send that data to WQX. What you want to know is that WQX refreshes every night. So if you're looking for your data in the water quality portal, waterqualitydata.us, it will not show up until the following day because there's a refresh every night. So it's not refreshing the database live. So this takes a little bit longer than the data rules change because this is using the Central Data Exchange. So it's going through EPA's firewall to exchange the information. But once it's complete, you will have completed the steps that you needed to fulfill for the WQX submission. If you need help submitting projects or monitoring locations, go ahead and visit our website, epa.gov, and look at our video tutorials. We do have tutorials on how to use the physical chemical template, which is the projects and monitoring locations, and how to load that data into WQX Web. Actually, I'll likely provide a link in this file that you got from Region 6 so that you can see how to load those data first as well. As you can see, this is the report we got back. This is when you know you're complete. The check mark and the submission to CDX was successful. So this means you have completed the data set, there were no errors, and You want to make sure there were no errors on this data set, otherwise you want to resubmit. And I got an email from cdx@epa.gov saying transaction finished with status completed. So they should email you when you've successfully completed this data set. So thank you for your time. Good luck, and please let Rob Cook or I know if you have any questions.